And welcome, everyone, to the Sports Writers Podcast. Right now, we have Phil Stacey, Nick Cucuroo, Nick Giannino. Coming on board right now as we speak will be Matt Williams, who will be joining us here just in time, under the wire here, breaking the tape, albeit last. But Matt Williams will be joining us here as he's connecting in here at this time. But gentlemen, there he is. We're underway, Matt, by the way. You didn't miss a thing, really. You really didn't.
All right, I won't say anything. I won't get caught on the hot mic like some people.
Exactly. And I'm sure some things could be said, but no, exactly. So let's begin. Let's talk about power ranking.
What?
What's that?
Let's begin. That's the Cobra Kai reference you threw out there.
Oh, well, I'm ignorant of that. Let's talk about power rankings. I thought it was interesting. I looked at the Division I boys basketball, and I saw that Beverly was the #1 D1 team on the North Shore. And how unusual is that from a year or two ago? That would include the Lynn teams. That would include Everett, not including Andover, but they're kind of Merrimack Valley or whatever. But Beverly, the #1 team right now in D1 boys basketball. First of all, they weren't in D1 a few years ago, but believe. But some thoughts on that, and then we can pull up those other power rankings. Nick, that's a good one for you to do.
Yeah, sure. I know we've talked a lot about Beverly by now. Our listeners and readers, the makeup of their team and how they're winning these games, but still undefeated. They do have that one loss there, I noticed on these rankings, which should not be there. To my understanding, that St. Mary's loss that we've talked about at the beginning of the year should not count towards their MIAA ranking. So I am assuming that will be changed before the tournament. But even with that loss, top 12, and they're rolling. They just had a big win against Tech Boston, who I'm not sure if you can scroll down. They might be on that list somewhere, right, Bill? I know they've only played a few games, Tech Boston. They had some COVID issues, and I don't see them on there unless they're Division 2. But they were, a perennial contender, in the state. And Beverly hung 8 points on them, won by 12 points. Built a huge lead in that one. Ryder Croft with another big game for them, 31 points, 16 rebounds, I believe it was. So Beverly's clicking on all cylinders right now. Their offense is, I think they've scored over 80 points in 5 or 6 straight games now, with 3 of those going over 80 points. So they're going to stay at that ranking, I would imagine, if not go up, especially if they take away that loss to St. Mary's. So I think that's pretty accurate for where they're at right now.
Yeah. You guys want to peek at any of the other power rankings, whether they be in basketball or hockey? Suggest, and I'll seek them out.
Go through them. Go through the.
Just go through them.
Yeah. What about Division 2, 3, and 4 for hoop? We can look at those real quick.
Hold on here. I'm
not sure in terms of North Shore teams who's going to be, really up towards the top in those, but.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
What jumps out at me when I look at those is just the unbelievable disparity between the number of teams in the Commonwealth that play basketball, which is essentially every single school, and those that play hockey, either as part of a co-op or don't field the team or whatnot. I mean, it's literally almost like half the teams.
Yeah.
We're looking at D2 right now here in the boys.
So Malden Catholic, good team.
Yeah, I'm just looking down here.
I think Masco's up. Yeah, 19 for
Masco. Yeah.
Salem's record in this thing is a mess. I don't know if that's a credit to them not putting their scores in Arbiter. Nick, do you know if those Florida games count, or are they going to have 3 wins wiped out?
They're supposed to count.
They're listed at 3-2, and what's their actual record? Like 7-3 or something? I mean,
I think they're 8-2. I think.
Yeah, and obviously this is a little bit older now as we look at it too, as
right
we
here.
record on the 25th. It was updated on the 21st, but nonetheless, I mean, Salem's a team that obviously is going to climb, whenever they figure that out.
Yeah, and that Masco record's not accurate either. They got 3 losses, so there's definitely some things they need to hash out here with these rankings.
And we should be clear, you know, the MIAA would tell you that it's the athletic director's fault for not updating these. I mean, we're just commenting on the records we know are true. We're not assigning blame to anybody, you know, for the sensitive types out there.
But you are positive, Nino, that those 3 games in Florida will count towards that? Because I know that there is some, you know, gray area there when it comes to those out of state.
Well, according to Tom Doyle, he says, you know, he cleared it with the MIA before the season. You know, it's a tournament they probably wouldn't have played in if it didn't count towards their record. They wanted it to count towards their record, their rankings. So it should be on there. And like I said, maybe they'll fix that. Same thing with Beverly with that first loss to St. Mary's, who we see here is #1 in Division III. And St. Mary's also has a loss too, to a team from, I believe, Florida as well. They played in a tournament or something last month. But yeah, so I take these rankings with a grain of salt at this point, especially boys hoop. But you see Bishop Fenwick up there at 6. I think they're 64 now.
Yeah.
But, and that's
these
how
aren't
many teams in Division III there, Bill.
What's that?
And that's how many teams in Division III?
Oh, I have 69. I'm not sharing that, but it's 69. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, I mean, more than half the teams don't make it. And isn't there one that has close to 80, like Division V or something?
I'm bringing up 4 right now. I'm doing them in order. If you bear with me
Nick,
here.
Gloucester was in Division III, weren't they?
They were, yeah, they were 27, 4 and 5, but they've lost twice in a row since that came out. So they might be finding themselves on the other end of that by the time these come out next week.
We got 60.
Georgetown and Manchester are both in the top 20 in 3. It looks like.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Georgetown 8-2. I did not realize they were that. Many games over 500. I know they have a pretty strong team. They've beaten some good Cal teams, but.
They have another loss now too. They lost to Manchester Essex on Friday night.
Right. Okay.
So these rankings that we're looking at would be just before the Friday games, and just for our listeners too. That's what it looks like to me, anyways. And then our listeners, we're recording this on Tuesday to be posted on Wednesday at the salemnews.com and the other newspaper websites, and of course at msonewsports.com. I'll see if I can get us back over here to go to D5 boys. One last shot here, if we can.
And that's the one that has like 80 teams in it. Is that right?
Coming up here, men. Here we go. Got it. Coming up. There it is. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, 2 pages, 84 teams, D5 boys. And top North Shore team here.
Well, you got Salem Academy.
Salem
there.
Charter. Yeah, Salem Academy Charter. So
20. But I think there's going to be a lot of shake up in these rankings, especially a lot of teams too have makeup games to play. You look at a school like St. John's Prep. I'm not sure where they fell in Division I, but they've only played 5 or 6 games. These other teams have already gone over 10 games.
We see St. Mary's. We see St. Mary's out of Westfield at 79, not to be confused with St. Mary's, and of course here.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll stop that. We'll go to.
Do we have any idea? By the way, I mean, I think this is all. I think Willie touched on a little bit that, if scores aren't being reported to Arbiter, we're not going to get a real accurate assessment of where the teams rank. And I would think especially in sport like boys and girls basketball, where there are so many teams and you can probably fluctuate greatly based on wins and losses. It's really important that schools do that. And if they don't, it's going to throw everything out of whack.
All right, here's D1 girls basketball. And just keeping going down here.
Andover and Central Catholic, both of those schools are in the top 5 or 10 in both boys and girls.
A team that we've been talking about, and Willie has been talking about, Peabody girls at number 23. And
with 1 loss. And then they got a team right in front of them with 4 losses. So that goes to show you the strength of schedule.
All right. We'll leave it at that. Just see 64 teams there in D1. We go to girls 2 here. Let's see here.
And not a
Somebody-
lot of locals. Masco's in there somewhere. Masco just lost to Newburyport last night. That's gonna
Yeah.
hurt. That's no good for the Northeastern Conference. That's gonna hurt everybody's RPI and drag everybody down. So that was a big one. Pentucket I see in 2. That's a level up for them, right? They're usually Division
Yeah.
3 schools.
Yeah.
So that's going to be challenging for the old ball coach up there to try to get back to the Garden in Division 2. I would think would be a tougher road.
And they got
John
they got
McNamara.
another loss too there.
Yeah.
Cathedral, I think they fell to.
Did you ever have John McNamara in class, Nick Giannino?
No, I played hoop with his son though.
Oh, okay.
Danvers I see down there at 47. I mean, we should be clear too, like teams outside the top 32, if they can get 10 wins, they get in anyway on the prelims. So, I mean, these brackets could be massive by the time everything's said and done.
Right.
Some of these teams I see here down in the 50s that look like they have winning records already,
Yeah. I
We
think case in point of that they might be Division 3, but Essex Tech has a winning record, I know.
Here's D3 girls here. Got some
Okay.
local teams there. St.
Yeah, I
Mary's
want to say they
and
were
Fenwick.
like 41 or 42 when I looked.
Who is that?
Essex Tech,
41.
Yeah, there you go.
41. Yeah,
41.
there you go. Right, 6-4.
And
We
that's they
should,
pretty much have the same record as Fenwick, who's number 3.
Right.
Hey, a little shout out to Coach Surrender over in Saugus. His team's up there. They're having a pretty good year.
Yeah.
I think they've tagged on another win since there. I think they won the other day. So
Swampscott, number
Yeah, I should
31.
shout out
there.
Swampscott too. They've been playing some
Yeah.
pretty good basketball. When they get to play Masco and Peabody, I bet that'll drag their rating up a little bit. From what we've seen, it sounds like Sophie DeGrande and Maddie Hudson and Chloe Rakowskis are playing really well over there for the Big Blue.
Of course, Chloe went on that big run with the Big Blue field hockey team to the state semifinals. So bringing some of that to the hard court.
Exactly.
here's girls 4. See Amesbury up there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Hamilton Wenham is kind of ensconced in the middle there at number 24.
Yeah, they just beat Amesbury on Friday. This probably doesn't include
right.
that. So
Yeah.
the Gens will be moving up. Looks like the soccer stars, Jane McGuire, Krista Coffey are playing really well for them. So that was a monumental win for them. I mean, we know Amesbury's been a powerhouse in the Division 3 and 4 girls. They played Fenwick in North Finals at the Songus a couple of times when that was still the format. So that was a really, really momentous win for the Gens on Friday night. And people can go back on our website, check out the photos, check out Jean's take from that game.
Kooks, is Manchester Essex still winless?
No, they picked up their first win on Friday over Georgetown. So they're 1-8 now, I believe.
Okay.
They're kind of uncharacteristically struggling this season. It's a rebuilding year for them.
But that's funny because as of here, as we're looking at this one, they're 0-7, but they're ranked 37. So
Yeah, I think
you wonder
that-
if a win could vault them up,
Yeah, I think any win would probably vault them up in the Cal with the schedule they play.
I mean, they're look at this. They're 11 slots higher than a team that's 6-6.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, if you, I was thinking about this the other day. I really do feel like this formula has worked out pretty well, at least as far as the fall went. I mean, I think I read somewhere that like in all the sports and all divisions for the fall, it was something like 87 or 89% of the top 4 seeds made it to the Final Four. I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And the only real like number one upset, and again, I don't follow the entire state with all these, but the only real number one upset I can think of is, Nick, didn't St. John's Prep soccer beat a number 1 seed? They were like the 16th seed and they beat somebody.
Yeah, they did. I'm trying to remember who it was.
Was it like Somerville or something like that?
It was a city school like that. I can't remember exactly.
But I mean, I think that was kind of an outlier.
Right.
Everything else seemed to work fairly well, I would say. So, you kind of are what you are in this formula, and we
talked about the Georgetown boys, Georgetown girls at number 21. They're kind of leading the way for the North Shore in the D5 rankings. So we'll stop there. Guys, I'm looking at the clock here. I don't know if we can go through all the boys hockey and girls hockey that way, but Phil, tell me what you want to do with boys hockey. We obviously just jumped to D1. Does that make sense to you? Does that want to do that?
I mean, you can. I mean, that's pretty cut and dry. I mean, St. John's Prep is number one. I think most people would agree right now that they are playing as the top team in the state. They've won 9 games in a row. They're 10-1 overall. They just beat Catholic Memorial Saturday in a 1-2 matchup. They beat Andover Monday. They've already beaten Austin Prep. They've beaten Reading. They've beaten Malden Catholic. They've beaten Xaverian. They're taking down all comers at this point. Their only loss was a second game of the season, missing 7 guys out with COVID, including both goaltenders. So they're really flying along right now at 10-1. Our only other team is Bishop Fenwick, and they've been in hiatus, COVID reasons. And look at that, they're still 31st. So I mean, we could get a Fenwick Prep first round matchup.
There you go. Yeah.
That. Bring back the Super 8, please, guys, because
Right. I think there are very few non-blowouts in those early rounds, with a 1 versus a 32, 2 versus a 31, that kind of thing.
I mean, even the second round of this Division I tournament is going to be a joke. It's just not. I don't know. I don't want to get into it, but it's going to be ugly.
Well, all right. So if you take a look at it like this, so what's this, Bill? Division 2?
No, this is 3 right now. I had 2 up.
Okay.
This is 3, just popped up. Yeah.
Okay. So to use maybe St. John's Prep as an example, if they played Bishop Fenwick in the first round, I think we would all assume that they would win that game. Then, as to Willie's point, a second round game, they're getting who? Maybe like a Bridgewater Raynham.
Lincoln Sudbury is number 16, which, I mean, that's a team that was in the Division II finals that we saw have good games against Masco and Danvers. So, I mean, they're going to go play St. John's Prep. That's no disrespect to LS, but they're not playing the same sport. The Super 8 teams and these other teams, it's just broken. And, we're going to be talking about it ad nauseum until they fix it.
Yeah. I mean, are we realizing that maybe hockey is a different animal than some of these other sports? Or is it just the fact that in any of these sports, a 1 is just simply not going to lose to a 32. A 3 is not going to lose to a 30. It doesn't matter what division, what sport, kind of thing.
I think we've seen a lot of competitive games. I mean, there's a reason they started the Super 8 in boys hockey 30 years ago, right? I mean, they're just not the Catholic schools, especially. And you have your public exceptions every now and then, Hingham, Reading, what have you. But I mean, just by and large, the Catholic Conference is literally not playing the same sport as everybody else. It's just that big of a gap of difference. And to not recognize that with over 30 years of data, going back to the mid 90s, it's just, I think it was a mistake, but, they obviously didn't ask my opinion or Phil's or, I know Jim Clark's been all over this too. And so it is what it is. We're going to have a tough time for a couple of years here until they figure it out.
Well, Eddie Burns of Arlington isn't coming through the door anytime soon.
No,
that's
but
my contribution to this.
Arlington is not a bad team, but I think that's the outlier here. I mean, you're looking at,
and they would get in, so they would be in the 8, and then a team like LS or Waltham would have a chance to win the Division I tournament and go to the Garden and stuff. And you've taken that away for really no readily apparent reason. It's just a broken record, I guess.
No, to go back to, I mean, for years and years, wasn't the Super 8 called the Catholic Conference Invitational?
Yeah.
And you're probably going to be, I mean, in all honesty, you're probably looking at a Prep Xaverian final, or, it could be, Pope Francis could get in there,
LCM, BC, you can't rule them out. And, you got your CCL teams. Austin Prep's been in there a couple of times in the finals, and every now and then Central Catholic, right? I mean, but, you can usually in hockey, boys hockey especially, you can take those top 10 teams and separate them from the pack. And there's you know, there's a Hoover Dam size gap there between those 10 teams and everybody else. But, you know, we'll see how it works out. Hey, you know what? I mean, one time in the NCAA Division I tournament, you know, Air Force beat Minnesota, right? So, I mean, you know, one
Right.
of these Catholic schools could lay an egg and get beaten. We'll all look stupid. I mean, I don't know.
So I got a 4 up here, Division 4. You got Stoneham, Winthrop at number 4. Then as you scroll down a little bit, Hamilton, Wenham
August
at
is
number
in there.
17. Yeah,
Swampscott, chasing
further
Burke.
down. Yeah.
Again, I know it's going to be school size, and they opted not to play up. But Stoneham won the Division II title a few years ago, not that long ago.
It's August
for them
too.
to-
I mean,
For them to be in Division IV seems a little crazy, but hey, good luck. And Winthrop is an excellent school. Got some pretty strong teams in there.
Yeah.
Can you go back
wouldn't,
to Division II for a minute?
Yeah, I can do that. But it's going to take me a moment to do that, Phil. But
I like Shawsheen there in 4 too. We've seen them battle some really good Marblehead teams over the years in 3.
Yeah, that's right. Didn't they beat Marblehead in the
here's-
shootout in the Anders Gunderson game?
I believe
There's
there
2.
was a controversial red light that went on in that shootout that,
Yes.
Coach Tommy is still angry about.
We're dating ourselves. That was probably about 13 years ago, but
I know nobody else remembers, but if
No.
Tom's watching, he does. He probably just broke something. So we apologize.
so look at Division II here. I think we've got some really good representation with Masco at 2, Gloucester at 4. Those two obviously played an epic game early this season, an overtime game that Masconomet won. From what I hear around the rink, Tewksbury seems to be head and shoulders, I've heard, above everyone else, but who knows? I mean, when you get into, I don't think it's such a chasm that it would be if, as you might say, St. John's Prep could be in Division I or whatnot. So, Nick,
That's a team that in the past could have been in the Super 8. I mean, they
Right.
play in a Division I league, and had they gone undefeated, that they could have been scooped out of there, like we saw with Wilmington a couple years ago.
Well, and you got Marblehead at 20. You got Beverly at where were they? 22. And I think again that's more maybe a little strength in the conference, but also because there's only 40 teams in this bracket.
Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
It's almost harder not to make it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah.
You got Newburyport at number 12, and they got a losing record there. I know
Right.
they've had some great teams over the years. But
I know you haven't had a chance to chime in much today, but tell us about the fishermen and I know we were both at the game on Saturday night against Danvers and how they're looking.
Yeah, I thought that was actually a good win for them. I know they were sluggish in the third, but they haven't really. Usually when they win, it's kind of bombs away, and they're putting up 7 goals and kind of running away from teams. Danvers kind of hung around, grinding on them a bit, and I thought they withstood it. So I thought that was actually a pretty decent test for them. But yeah, I mean, rankings wise, I wasn't surprised to see them, where they were. I figured they'd obviously be behind Masco since Masco beat them and has fewer losses. But we'll see what happens. The next couple of weeks. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of moving parts there too, up at the top when they're all playing each other again.
Yep.
Matt, I'm
Bill,
going to go to
I don't know the girls, but I know Peabody was 10th, Willie, or 11th.
that's
Yeah,
them. That's them right there.
Okay, yeah.
they're right in there. Which is so there's the Winthrop tie is missing, which is interesting because that game was a while ago. I was going to mention the Vikings. I mean, they're down there, undefeated down there at 19, and I saw one publication had them ranked number 2 in the state last week, which was a little that's a little bit of a disparity. There's some dissonance there.
Ahead of St. Mary's in Arlington. Wow.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, so Austin Prep is number 1 with a bullet right now, and they dropped a touchdown, 7 goals on both of those teams, which I think is being held against them in the rankings, in the Boston papers, which I'm not sure I see it that way, but hey, I don't get a vote. So it goes. I think Austin's just that good. I mean, they got a great defenseman from Danvers, Emma Guthrie, and we can read about her in last week's column. She's going to go play in college, and Austin's just really rolling right now. So I think
last chance for them too in the MIAA, right?
that's right. But I was impressed with Fenwick here, up at 13. Their TCL schedules carrying them, and when they play Peabody at the end of the year, that's definitely going to help Peabody hopefully stay in the top 10, and hopefully pull both teams up so they can get a couple of home games. If the McVan O'Keefe rink is busy those first couple weeks of the postseason, that would be good for the home coverage. That's for sure. And I would imagine Beverly looks like a tournament team too. I mean, again, 39 teams here. You only the top 7 aren't getting in. So I mean, there's like no way Beverly's fallen that far. So for them, it's just a matter of jockeying for position, I think. And I love the way
they get in too.
I would imagine that they would. Marblehead's kind of a weird team in that they've been off for almost 17 days now. They played a ton of games early. Look at that, 10 games already. That's more than Peabody, more than Beverly, more than Winthrop, more than just about anybody in the league. So they really had a lot of games early, took a lot of energy out of the legs, and they've had time to regroup and rest and work on their systems and stuff. So hopefully, that helps them once they get the rust out to finish strong. I mean, but at 4 and 6, they're right around 500. I would imagine that if they don't get to 500, they'll certainly remain close to that, and should have no problem, squeezing into the bracket here. But obviously, you don't want to be 32. You don't want to be going to Austin Prep the way that they're destroying all their opponents right now.
How is Masconomet a Division II hockey team and B outside of the top 32?
Well, because I mean, they're by themselves now, right? Because all their co-op partners absconded to Newburyport. So I mean, all your girls hockey teams all these teams in Division I are co-op teams, just about, and they're outside the top 32 because that they're not really playing very well. Trying to find a nice way to put it. I mean, what are they, 3 and 7 or something like that? Like that just isn't going to get the job done. They're having a hard time keeping a puck out of the net, and they're having a hard time putting it in the net at the other end. I mean, I'm just looking at some of the scores here. It looks like they got 6, 7. They got 14 goals in 10 games. I mean, that's just not going to, cut the mustard, as they say. Unfortunately, their top scorer last year is playing for St. Mary's Lynn now. That doesn't help matters. And they got a lot of young kids, only 2 seniors, and one of them's been out for a little while with an ankle. So just going through some things over there right now, hopefully having a better second half. They got, some games coming up here in the next 3 or 4 where they can conceivably get some points, hopefully get on a roll and hopefully make a run of it. Cause I know they're working hard and all that good stuff, but they really, since they lost those co-op partners, have struggled. I mean, I think, they only won 3 or 4 games last year in the shortened season. And obviously the wins aren't coming just yet this year. So I think the big thing for them is just to try to make sure they retain all this young talent, let them grow up together, develop together. And when all these 7th and 8th graders hopefully are juniors and seniors, it'll be their time to kind of get revenge for what's going on right now.
And Kooks, no chance that Gloucester gets in there?
I doubt it. They were 53 out of 54. They did pick up a win Saturday over Shawsheen, but I mean, they'd have to upset one of the big guns in their league, and I don't think they're on that level this year. They're just really young, sophomores and 8th graders, so they're core. I mean, they got about a half dozen 8th graders that play significant minutes, and they can skate. They've skated with everyone, but they kind of get out muscled in the corners a lot in front of the nets. Rebounds on both ways are kind of their undue, and just a little growing up to do is all they need. They're on the right track though.
Gentlemen, so those are the power rankings for boys basketball, boys and girls basketball, boys and girls hockey. Any other stories this past week or ahead this week that you guys want to share with us on the local scene? We can jump to something else if time permits, but just I want to make sure we cover everything local that we want to. So other than the rankings, anything else you guys want to share locally coming up or happened?
What do we think of this Austin Prep thing? I mean, they're going to leave the MIAA, go to the NEPSAC. I'm not sure it's such a hot move. I don't think it would be a hot move for any of the parochial schools around these parts. But what do you guys think?
Well, let me ask you guys this. What would be the advantage to doing that? Why would you do that?
It baffles me. I got nothing.
Yeah, they must have their reasons. I can't imagine this was a spur of the moment decision. maybe it has to do with lower enrollment, and by moving into the prep school ranks, maybe they figure they can get a different kind of athlete that will go there. You're saying instead of playing the, Bishop Stangs of the world, now you can come here and your athletes will play against, whatever, Governor Dummer or Pingree, or, maybe they feel that's attractive. Maybe they're hoping to draw from a broader base of student athlete. I don't know. Austin Prep certainly isn't in our coverage area. We really only know them for when they play Bishop Fenwick, and or the rare times they might play a St. John's Prep or another school in, like, say, the baseball tournament or something like that. So I'm not sure why it is. I mean, you'd have to think financially motivated. That only makes sense. And if you're going to be a private school, I'm guessing that maybe the tuition is going to go up. So I'm with Willie. I don't really see, it doesn't really make sense to me that Bishop Fenwick would follow suit. I don't really see St. Mary's doing the same thing. I talked to some folks at St. John's Prep, and I think they're like, why would we fix what isn't broken? Everything's fine with us here in the MIAA. The only school I could maybe see doing it might be Malden Catholic, but even that might be a reach. They're a little too big for the CCL, but it seems like they lag behind in most sports in the Catholic Conference. So perhaps that could be something they explore, but I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
Well, like Austin's not even particularly dominant in much of anything except for girls hockey. So that's, you think like some of the opponents of St. John's Prep would probably like for them to go, right? But for Austin, it's like, they don't even really win state championships, regularly at the MIA level. So, I don't know that they can go and, compete with some of the other teams, or maybe some of the teams aren't as good. And the atmosphere, we've talked to athletes that have done post-grad years or, transferred or whatever. And, there's nothing like playing at the Garden or playing in a North Final with all the fans there. The NEPSAC games just don't draw those kinds of crowds or those kinds of energies. It's just a different thing. So I don't know why you would sacrifice the atmosphere of those tournament games, to go do something else. It's certainly not what I would do, but,
What
good
was
luck
that
to
thread
them.
that you had going online about someone asked, did someone ask or did someone imply that the top NEPSAC football schools would beat Catholic Memorial, was it?
Oh yeah. There was someone that did imply such a foolishness, but again, to go back to the hockey conversation, they're not even playing the same sport. Due respect to those teams, I don't think there's a team in the history of the NEPSAC that could play with the current iteration of Catholic Memorial. It's just not going to happen.
No, to be perfectly honest with you, I think Marblehead would beat most of the prep school teams. Granted, I know there are some that would defeat them and that are bigger and PGs and get kids from all over and 280-pound linemen. I get that. So spare me the, oh, you're wrong. But, the bottom line is Marblehead would do very, very well against many of those teams. Is anybody in disagreement against that? This past year's Marblehead team.
Not from what we've seen over the years. When there's been some crossover, Pingree struggled with a lousy Masco team in their Thanksgiving meeting. Masco happened to be down that year, and they played two competitive games with Bishop Fenwick when Bishop Fenwick was up, which, so if you sort of parse that out and analogize that the school's bigger than Pingree playing against your Everett, your Reddings, God forbid St. John's Prep. That's just a mismatch. And it's numbers. Like,
Numbers,
Coach
yeah.
Brian St. Pierre has 100 kids in his program. Mike Flynn has 35, and BB&N doesn't have any more. And so I don't care if you have high school Derrick Henry on your team. If you have 5 total linemen over 48 minutes of football, you're not going to win. It's just simple as that.
Well, I think it's important to note too that we're not disparaging Pingree or any other school that plays.
Of course not.
Pingree's awesome to watch. They get some great athletes, really good, but depth is a concern there.
Exactly.
Right, and you can only go so many athletes, and if somebody goes down, that's a big loss. Like a lineman goes down, you can't compete with the bigger schools. I don't even know, Will, you'd know better than I would, who some of the bigger prep school teams would be. Like, is there a, I don't know, like, is the Belmont Hill super big, or I'm trying to think.
I mean, it changes. Like Milton Academy's got the arrow pointed up right now. You know, and usually there's one or two, you know, big time kids at every school, but
Proctor, is that another big school?
they're not bad. I mean, you know, that St. Mark's that Pingree's played tough a couple times isn't bad. But I mean, you know, just because you have one kid that's going to Nebraska or whatever, just, I mean, how many times have we seen even in the conference, like, you know, some team has one stud and, you know, a team that has, you know, 10 guys that are B+ players are able to just neutralize that kid with game planning and things like that. I mean, football is not basketball and it's not even hockey. Like you can't, it's a team game. Like you just, one guy can't really win a football game in high school anyway.
That was an interesting segue from the Austin Prep question, Bill.
Yeah.
Everything goes back to high school football one way or another. It's like the sun.
Well, there you go. And we're out of time here, but I'll just conclude. I know on the thread that I was watching or looking at it on Twitter regarding the Austin Prep situation a few days ago, you know, they're speculating that there were other schools that might follow suit, maybe not right away, but might do it. So we don't have really time for you guys to respond to that, but just keep that in mind for our listeners that is a possibility, but maybe not right now. So, gentlemen, on that note, you guys have a great week ahead, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks,
Yep.
Bill.